She texted, "I really need you right now." I responded, "I'm already standing at your door." The text came at 2:47 a.m., 3 words that made my hands tighten on the steering wheel. I really need you. I was already parking outside her building, rain hammering my windshield, the city lights bleeding into wet halos. I'd been circling her block for the past hour, watching her bedroom window, the shadows moving behind the curtains telling me she wasn't sleeping. I knew what day it was, the anniversary of the night that had ended her 20-year marriage, the night her ex-husband had put her in the hospital. By the time my response sent, "I'm already standing at your door," I was taking the stairs to the 3rd floor, my heart pounding harder than the 6-year age gap between us should make it. I was 29. She was 45. And I was so completely, irrevocably in love with her that every rule about age and propriety and what people would think had burned away months ago. She opened the door before I could knock. Hair falling from its clip, she wore one of my old t-shirts and yoga pants. Her eyes were red-rimmed. Marcus. My name came out broken, and then she was in my arms, collapsing against my chest. I kicked the door shut and held her while she shook. The apartment smelled like jasmine tea and anxiety. Empty coffee mugs lined the counter. Her laptop was open, work files scattered. Classical music played softly, Chopin's nocturnes. "I've got you," I said into her hair. "I'm here. I'm not going anywhere." She pulled back just enough to look at me, and her face was raw with the kind of vulnerability that still surprised me, this brilliant, accomplished woman who ran creative teams and pitched to Fortune 500 companies, letting me see her completely undone. "You shouldn't be here. If Jake finds out, your son doesn't get to dictate your life. He's my son, and he already thinks I'm having a midlife crisis by dating someone 16 years younger." Her voice cracked. "What if he's right? What if I'm just... Don't." I cupped her face, my thumbs brushing away tears. "Don't let other people's judgment make you doubt this. Us. It's been 2 years," she whispered. 2 years since I left David. Since that night. And I still wake up like this, heart pounding, convinced I'm back in that house, back in that hospital room. "You're safe. You're here. You're with me." I guided her to the couch, pulled the throw blanket over her shoulders. "Do you want to talk about it?" She shook her head, then nodded, then made a sound that was half laugh, half sob. "I don't know what I want. Just when I woke up and the panic hit, all I could think was that I needed to hear your voice. That if I could just hear you say my name, I'd remember I'm real. That this life is real." I sat beside her and pulled her close, her head on my chest, my hand stroking her hair. We sat like that for a long time, rain drumming against the windows, the city breathing below us, and slowly, so slowly, I felt her body relax, the trembling subside. "Tell me how we met," she said finally. "I need to remember something good." I smiled against her hair. "You already know how we met. Tell me anyway. Please." So I did. I walked into that conference room 6 months ago to pitch product ideas to the creative director. I'd prepared slides, rehearsed, wore my one good suit. Then you walked in wearing that charcoal dress, hair up, meaning business. You said, "Marcus Thorne, product manager. Impress me." "You were so arrogant," she said, smiling, critiquing my work in my own meeting. "You hired me on the spot. And I spent 4 months trying not to notice you were brilliant and charming and looked at me like I mattered. I quit because I couldn't keep working for you and wanting you. So I left, took a job in Brooklyn, showed up 3 days later with Thai food and asked you on a date. I said, 'This is a terrible idea.' She turned, straddling my lap, hands framing my face. Then I kissed you anyway. Best terrible idea you ever had? Second best." She kissed me, soft and slow, tasting like salt and relief. First best was leaving David. But you're a close second. We stayed like that, kissing in the dim light of her living room, rain providing percussion, the city humming its lullaby. When we finally broke apart, she rested her forehead against mine. "Tell me about your day," she said. "Something normal. Something that has nothing to do with panic attacks or ex-husbands or age gaps." Jamie asked if I'm bringing a +1 to his wedding. I said I'm seeing someone. He wants to know who. You're protecting me. I'm protecting us. There's a difference. She pulled back, and I saw the war in her expression, gratitude fighting with guilt. You shouldn't have to hide me. Hide us. You're 29. You should be with someone your own age. Someone who doesn't come with a decade of baggage and an adult son who thinks you're Emma. I've dated women my age. Everyone bored me within 3 months. You challenged me? You've survived hell and came out stronger. You're the most interesting person I've ever met. And the age gap just means you're that much more fascinating. Her eyes filled again. But this time the tears weren't from panic. You're going to make me cry again. Good tears this time? Good tears. She kissed me again. Deeper now. And I tasted the shift from desperation to something warmer. Stay tonight? I'll stay every night if you let me. Jake comes home from college in 2 weeks, for winter break. I know. We'll have to be more careful. He can't know about us yet. Not until I figure out how to tell him. I know that too. I brushed her hair back from her face. I'll take whatever you can give me, Emma. Whatever pace you need. I'm not going anywhere. She studied me, trying to find the catch. But there wasn't one. Just me, in love with my former boss. I don't deserve you, she said finally. You deserve better. You deserve someone without student debt and a studio apartment and IKEA furniture. But you're stuck with me. She laughed, and the sound was light, genuine, the panic finally releasing its grip. Come to bed? Always. I woke to sunlight streaming through her bedroom window and the smell of coffee brewing. Emma's side of the bed was empty but still warm. I found her in the kitchen, hair wet from a shower, wearing a silk robe the color of wine, pouring coffee into 2 mugs. Morning, she said. And her smile was softer now, the edges of last night's crisis smoothed away by sleep and safety. I made your favorite, that expensive Ethiopian blend you pretend not to love. I never pretend. I openly worship it. I wrapped my arms around her from behind, kissing the curve of her neck. She leaned back against me, and for a moment we just stood there, swaying slightly, the coffee cooling on the counter. I have to go into the office. Big presentation, the pharma rebrand. If we land this, it's 7 figures. You're going to kill it. You have to say that. I'd say it even if I wasn't sleeping with you. I turned her to face me. You're the best they've ever had. She smiled, but there was something wistful in it. You know what Carol said yesterday? My friend from book club? She said, I've been glowing lately. Asked if I'd started using new skincare or gotten Botox. What did you tell her? I told her I found a good vitamin routine. She laughed dryly. I couldn't exactly say, actually, I'm sleeping with a 29-year-old and having the best sex of my life. Why not? Because Carol would judge me. She'd say I'm having a midlife crisis. That I'm trying to recapture my youth. That it's... She stopped, shook her head. Inappropriate? I supplied. Unseemly? Embarrassing? All of the above. She pulled away, picked up her coffee. Don't you ever worry about what people think? Your friends must wonder why you're with someone old enough to be. Don't finish that sentence. My voice came out sharper than I intended. You're not old enough to be my mother. You're 45, not 65. And my friends know I don't do conventional. Jamie asked yesterday if you were the one I've been seeing. I said yes. He said, older woman? I said yes. He said, good for you. That was the entire conversation. Men get to date younger and it's aspirational. Women do it and we're predators or desperate. Then we change the narrative. I took her coffee, set it down, framed her face with my hands. We be so obviously, ridiculously happy that people have to confront their own judgments. You make it sound simple. It's not simple, but it's worth it. I kissed her forehead. Now go get ready for that presentation. Show those pharma executives why they need you. She softened, kissed me once more, quick, sweet, and disappeared into her bedroom. I heard the closet door open, hangers scraping as she selected her armor for the day. I poured myself coffee and wandered to the living room window, looking out at the city, waking up below. My phone buzzed. A text from my mother. Dinner Sunday? Dad wants to try that new barbecue place? Bring a date if you want. I stared at the words. My parents didn't know about Emma yet. They knew I'd quit my old job, knew I was seeing someone, but I'd been vague on details. How exactly did one say, Mom, Dad, I'm dating a woman 16 years older with a college-age son and an ex-husband who beat her? There wasn't a greeting card for that. Emma emerged dressed sharp navy dress, blazer, heels. She'd transformed from vulnerable to powerful. Like you're about to close a seven-figure deal. Good. She grabbed her bag, her laptop. At the door, she paused. Marcus? Yeah? Thank you. For last night. For being here. For... She smiled, tentative. For not running when you see all my broken pieces? Your broken pieces are my favorite pieces. I kissed her one more time. Now go be brilliant. The presentation went perfectly. By 3 p.m., contracts were being drafted. When I met her for coffee, she was glowing. 7 figures. 2-year contract. Full creative control. She was animated, hands gesturing. The CEO said my presentation was refreshing. Because you're brilliant. Because I took risks. Proposed ideas my team thought were too bold. And it worked. I raised my coffee and toast. To risks that pay off? She clinked her mug against mine, and for a moment, sitting across from each other in this quiet corner booth, the age gap felt invisible. We were just two people who understood each other, who made each other better, who'd found something unexpected and refused to apologize for it. Jake called. He's coming home Thursday, week earlier than planned. How do you feel? Terrified. He barely talks to me since the divorce, blames me for giving up. He doesn't know what David did the hospital, the years of fear. Why not tell him the truth? Because he worships David. If I tell him, I destroy that image. But if I don't, he thinks I broke up our family for no reason. I reached across the table, covered her hand with mine. You're protecting him, even when it costs you. How do I introduce you? How do I say, this is my boyfriend. He's 4 years younger than you? He'll think I've lost my mind. Have you? Have you fallen in love with me? Or am I misreading this? She stared, coffee forgotten. Then quietly, I'm terrified of how much I love you. The world tilted. Say that again. I love you, Marcus. I'm 45 and come with baggage, and I love you so much it scares me. I kissed her, right there, not caring who watched. People are staring. Let them. I love you. Emma Castellan. She set her coffee down, hands trembling. Do you ever imagine us 5 years from now? What does that look like when you're 39 and I'm 55? I imagine us exactly like this. Why would age change that? Because I'm terrified you'll wake up one day and realize you've wasted your youth on someone who's already lived half her life. I held her hands. Emma, you're not a waste. You're the woman I choose. Every single day. 5 years from now, 10 years from now, I'll still be choosing you. We have to be careful. Until I tell Jake I know, I'll be careful. I'll be whatever you need. I squeezed her hand. But Emma, I need you to stop waiting for me to leave. I'm here. I'm staying. This isn't a phase or a crisis or a mistake. This is me choosing you. Every day. Deliberately. She blinked rapidly, fighting tears. You're going to ruin my makeup. Good. You're even more beautiful when you cry. You're ridiculous. You love it. I do. She laughed, wiping her eyes. We erased my presence from her apartment toiletries, spare clothes, coffee mugs. You don't need his permission. I know, logically. Emotionally, it's different. You won't lose him. He's your son. He'll come around. You don't know that. No, I admitted. But I know you. You're one of the strongest people I've ever met. And whatever happens, we'll figure it out together. She kissed me goodbye, long, lingering, the kind of kiss that tasted like fear and hope in equal measure. Call me later? Always. I drove home to my studio apartment in Brooklyn, the one with IKEA furniture and brick walls. I'd never felt the space's inadequacy as sharply this cramped bachelor pad that screamed 29-year-old. She had a beautiful apartment in Manhattan. What did I have to offer except youth and a love so fierce it sometimes scared me? Jamie called. Sunday barbecue. Bringing your mystery woman? I hesitated. It's complicated. Married or crazy? Divorced. Sane. So what's complicated? She's 16 years older. Has a son. 22. Silence. Are you happy? Happier than I've ever been. Then bring her Sunday. Her son's coming home. She needs to tell him first. I don't want to add pressure. Eventually, you're going to have to stop hiding. You can't build a life with someone you're afraid to claim publicly. He was right. I knew he was right. But knowing something and being ready to act on it were different things. At midnight, my phone rang. Emma, voice strained. Can you talk? Always. He brought his girlfriend. Watching them together made me wonder if I'm being selfish. You should be with someone your own age. What do you need from me? Space? Just this week. I need to focus on Jake. Emma, I've given you months. I've kept us secret. But I'm not doing this. I'm not being someone you're ashamed of. Then prove it. Tell Jake this weekend that you're seeing someone and you're happy. 3 days of silence. I threw myself into work. On the fourth day, Saturday evening, my buzzer rang. It's me. Emma's voice, small through the speaker. Can I come up? She looked tired. Beautiful. I told Jake, she said. My heart stopped. What? Last night? I told him I was seeing someone. That I was happy. That I was in love. What did he say? He needs time. But I also told him about the divorce. About David. The truth. Was it hard? The hardest thing I've ever done. But you were right, I've been letting fear make my decisions. She stepped closer. Marcus, I'm sorry. You were right. I want this. I want you. Publicly. Messily. Even if Jake struggles with it, I'm 29, not 17. I know. But the world sees what it wants to see. She reached for my hands. But here's what I decided. I don't care anymore. I spent 20 years living for other people. For David, for Jake, for the version of myself that made everyone comfortable. And I'm done. I want this. I want you. Publicly, messily, even if it means Jake struggles with it. Even if my friends judge. Even if your parents think I'm too old for you. My parents are going to love you. You don't know that. I do. Because they raised me to see people, not demographics. And they're going to see what I see, someone brilliant and strong and brave enough to choose happiness even when it's complicated. She kissed me then, and I tasted salt tears, but I couldn't tell if they were hers or mine or both. When we broke apart, she rested her forehead against mine. I love you, she said, and I'm sorry I made you doubt that. I love you too, and I'm sorry for the ultimatum. I was hurt, and you were right. She pulled back, looked at me with those gold-flecked eyes. So here's what I'm proposing. Dinner with Jake. Tomorrow night. You, me, him, and his girlfriend. I'll tell him beforehand about the age gap. Prep him as much as I can. And then we face it together. No more hiding. You're sure? Terrified. But sure. She smiled. Someone once told me that risks are worth taking. That being obviously, ridiculously happy makes people confront their own judgments. Sounds like a smart person. The smartest. And the most infuriatingly right. I kissed her again, pulling her fully into my tiny apartment. And for the first time in days, the tightness in my chest eased. We were doing this. Really doing this. The world could think whatever it wanted. Sunday dinner was at Emma's apartment. Jake and his girlfriend Melissa arrived first, and I watched through the window from across the street, giving them time to settle. My stomach was in knots. I'd changed clothes 3 times, finally settling on dark jeans and a button-down adult, but not trying too hard. Emma texted, "Ready when you are." Jake knows. He's processing. I climbed the stairs, knocked on her door. Emma opened it, and I saw fear and determination in her eyes in equal measure. Hi. Hi. I kissed her cheek, nothing scandalous, just affection, and stepped inside. Jake was 22 but looked younger, with Emma's brown eyes and his father's build. He stood when I entered, his expression carefully neutral. Melissa, petite with bright red hair, smiled warmly. Jake, Melissa, this is Marcus. Marcus, this is my son Jake and his girlfriend Melissa. We shook hands. Jake's grip was firm. Testing. Mom says you're a product manager. Was. I went freelance a few months ago. I met his eyes, refusing to look away. I worked with your mom at Turner and Associates. That's how we met. And now you're dating. Yes. He processed that, his jaw tight. You're what, 25? 26? 29. I watched him do the math, watched his eyes widen as he calculated the 16-year gap. You're only 7 years older than me. I'm aware. Jake, Emma said quietly, and there was steel underneath. I know this is a lot to process, but Marcus and I care about each other, and I'd appreciate if you'd give him a chance before judging. It's fine, I said. He has a right to ask questions. Jake's eyes narrowed. Do you have kids? No. Ever been married? No. What do you see in my mom? And don't say something generic like, she's beautiful, or she's smart. She's also 45. What do you actually want from her? Emma started to intervene, but I touched her arm gently. It's okay. I turned to Jake. I see someone who spent 20 years in a marriage that diminished her and came out the other side, still believing she could build something better. I see someone who taught herself to code in her 30s because she refused to be left behind by her industry. I see someone who raised a son while working 60-hour weeks and somehow did both better than most people do one. I glanced at Emma, who was blinking rapidly. I see the most interesting person I've ever met. And yeah, she's 45, which means she's lived enough to know what she wants and isn't afraid to ask for it. That's not a flaw. That's why I love her. Silence. Melissa was smiling. Jake looked torn between anger and something else, maybe recognition that this wasn't what he'd expected. My dad says you're a rebound, Jake said finally. That mom's going through something and you're just... I opened my mouth, anger rising, but Emma's hand touched my arm. Gentle, deliberate. Marcus, let me... She turned to Jake, and I watched her spine straighten, shoulders square. This was the woman who pitched to Fortune 500 executives, who'd rebuilt herself from nothing. Jake, your father is lying, and I'm done letting him control the narrative. Jake blinked. What? Your father put me in the hospital 2 years ago, broke 3 ribs, gave me a concussion severe enough that I couldn't work for 6 weeks. That night, the night I finally left, wasn't the first time. It was just the worst. The room went silent. Melissa's hand flew to her mouth. Jake's face drained of color. For years, I told myself it was my fault. That I provoked him. That, if I just tried harder, was quieter, didn't challenge him, he'd stop. But he never stopped. And I stayed because I was terrified of what leaving would do to you, to our family, to my reputation. Mom, Jake's voice cracked. I know you blamed me for the divorce. I let you blame me because the alternative was worse, destroying the image you had of your father. But I'm done protecting him at my own expense. I left him because staying was killing me. Literally. She glanced at me, then back at Jake. Marcus came months after I'd already rebuilt enough of myself to recognize I deserved better. So no, he's not a rebound. He's proof that I finally believe I'm worth loving. Jake stared at her, then at me. I stayed quiet. This was her moment. Her truth. Why didn't you tell me? Jake whispered. Emma's eyes filled. Because you're my son, and I wanted to protect you from that truth for as long as I could. But you're an adult now, and you deserve to know why I made the choices I did. Why didn't you? His voice cracked. Why didn't you tell me? Because you're my son, and I wanted to protect you from that truth for as long as I could. I thought you were just giving up. I know. Emma sat on his other side. And I let you think that because the alternative was worse. But Jake, I need you to understand. I didn't leave because of Marcus. I left because staying was killing me. Marcus came after I'd already rebuilt enough of myself to recognize that I deserved better. Jake looked at me, and I saw him trying to reconcile this new narrative with everything he'd believed. You really love her? More than I can explain. And you're not using her for money or connections, or I'm a freelance developer living in a studio apartment in Brooklyn? If I wanted money or connections, I'd have stayed at my corporate job. I smiled slightly. I'm with your mom because she makes everything better. Including me. He didn't look convinced, but he nodded slowly. Okay, I need time to process all of this. But, okay, it wasn't acceptance, but it was a start. We're still together. Still navigating complications, Jake's wariness slowly softening into cautious acceptance, colleagues who whisper when we attend industry events together, strangers who assume I'm Emma's son before they see us kiss. Emma introduced me to her book club. Some friends were genuinely supportive, happy to see her happy. Carol, wasn't she stopped inviting Emma after discovering the age gap? Something about setting a bad example. Emma shrugged. Her insecurity? Not my problem. I brought Emma to Sunday barbecue with my parents. Mom hugged her immediately. Finally, someone with sense to balance out Marcus's nonsense. Dad spent an hour discussing design philosophy, completely engrossed. They didn't mention age once, they just saw someone who made me happy. Jamie's wedding is next month. Emma's my official +1. He apologized for his initial skepticism. You two just fit, he said last week over drinks. Age is just a number when you're that obviously in sync. Jake still struggles. Last month, he texted Emma asking to meet for lunch, just the two of them. She came home with red-rimmed eyes but smiling. He apologized, she told me, voice thick, said he'd been an ass, that he's trying to understand, that seeing me happy is confusing, but good. Progress. Slow, painful, but real. He's cordial at family dinners now, asking me about work, occasionally laughing at my jokes, distant still, yes, still processing the truth about his father, still adjusting to seeing his mother as a woman with needs beyond motherhood. Emma aches over it, but she's stopped apologizing for her choices. He'll come around or he won't, she told me last week, curled against me on her couch. But I'm done making myself smaller for other people's comfort. I spent 20 years doing that. Never again. We're not engaged. We've talked about it late-night conversations where we circle the idea like cautious cats. Do you want marriage? I asked her once. She'd been quiet for a long time. I don't know. Part of me is terrified it'll turn into what I had before. But part of me wants to stand in front of everyone we love and say, this is my person. So maybe, someday, when it feels right, I'd kissed her forehead. Someday works for me. We're not rushing toward any particular milestone. We're just building a life, her apartment most nights. Mine when she wants to pretend we're 20-somethings in a tiny Brooklyn walk-up. Weekends that blend into weeks. Mornings that taste like coffee and promise. We're having serious conversations about moving in together officially. About whether we want marriage or just partnership or something uniquely ours. I don't need a wedding, Emma said yesterday, tracing patterns on my chest, her hair spilling over the pillow like dark silk. I had the big white dress and the vows and the happily ever after that turned into a nightmare. This time, I just want real, messy, honest. You have me, I'd murmured. For as long as you'll keep me, forever, then, deal. Last night, Emma woke from a nightmare. The anniversary has a way of lingering, creeping back when least expected. I felt her jolt beside me, heard the sharp intake of breath, the whimper caught in her throat. I didn't ask questions, just pulled her against my chest, wrapped my arms around her, and held on. You're safe, I whispered into her hair. I'm here. You're safe. She shook for a long time, fingers twisted in my shirt, breathing ragged. I stroked her back in slow circles, the way I'd learned she needed, steady, grounding, real. Slowly, her breathing evened, her grip loosened. When dawn came, soft light filtering through the curtains, she tilted her face up to look at me. Thank you for staying, she said, voice hoarse. Always, I said. Even when it's hard? Even when I wake you up at 3 a.m. because my brain won't let me forget? Especially then. I kissed her forehead. Emma, this is what love looks like. Not the Instagram version, the real version. The version where you hold each other through the hard parts and don't let go. She smiled that smile that had captivated me in that first meeting, the one that said she was brilliant and broken and brave all at once. I love you, Marcus Thorne. I love you, Emma Castellan. Every complicated, extraordinary piece. Outside, the city woke up. Inside, we stayed tangled in each other, building something imperfect and messy and ours. Not perfect, never perfect, but real. And that was more than enough. And